There's a video that went viral worldwide which says that an Iranian cleric took a photo of a girl who wasn't wearing the Islamic hijab. So the girl, when she realized that the cleric was taking pictures of her without her permission, got angry, started insulting him, shouting, "Give me your phone." And in the end, the cleric resisted. They took his phone, went into the gallery, deleted that photo he took without permission, and all that. What do you think, Sheikh Qomi, about that? Well, first let me tell you a joke. One person wrote to me from Spain saying, look, Sheikh Qomi, a new video of yours. So I said to him, look, it's not me. Look, that cleric is a young guy. I'm an old man. My beard and that guy are very different. Well, what do I think about the mandatory hijab? Let's take a look at them one by one. The Islamic government has an obligation to teach Islamic rules. That's true. If we have an Islamic government in Iran, it has the obligation as an Islamic government to teach, we can say, propagate, and enforce God's rules. That's true. Secondly, one of God's rules is the Islamic hijab. That's also true. The question is how the Islamic government should enforce the hijab law. I am one of the critics of what is happening in Iran today because I see it as against the Islamic hijab. It means, for example, in my house, what I am professionally. Many people in Latin America, just by listening to Sheikh Qomi, started wearing the Islamic hijab. What does that mean? It means that Sheikh Qomi knows an Islamic way to convince women to wear the hijab. It's an effective way. Even Latina women who listen to Sheikh Qomi put on the chador. So as a person, I can say I'm an expert on how to convince ladies to understand the importance of the Islamic hijab and to wear the Islamic hijab. I say that what is happening in Iran today is absolutely wrong on both sides, because there is a group of young people who want to resist the Islamic hijab. That's anti-Islamic. It's very clear. Or if we're going to take the hijab off other women, that's not right, because other women want to wear the hijab and we're going to take their hijab off. That's not right. And some anti-revolutionary people teach it. On the other hand, there are people who don't know how to teach the Islamic hijab and think that by imposing it, by shouting, by insulting, or just through punishment, they can make it work. That's not right either. Why? It's a matter of the heart. It's a matter of decision. We say that has 5 steps. This thing about punishing a girl who doesn't wear the Islamic hijab is not the first step. And if you take it as the first step, it's a pretty incoherent, incorrect step that leads to bad results. What we're seeing today in Iran means criminalizing girls who don't wear the Islamic hijab. I say that it's not right. It doesn't work. We have 4 steps. The first step is the issue of education. Education in Iran doesn't teach well the reason behind the Islamic hijab. It means a person needs to know why wear the Islamic hijab? Because the Islamic hijab, in one way or another, limits a woman's freedom. So a person has to know why. Self-limit. A girl who dresses however she wants, with a jacket, with clothes, show her body, seems to have more freedoms. So you have to convince her, because she has to accept that limitation. It means education. For example, that I teach in universities how bad Western sex education is. So much abuse that's in the West, rape, abortion, single mothers, teenage mothers, and many problems that exist in the West, all because they don't wear the Islamic hijab. When a girl understands why she's an intelligent person, when she knows that it's right, she doesn't take off the hijab, she follows the rule. When there's no education on why it's wrong to walk around naked in the street, why fornication is wrong, why Western sex education is wrong, she doesn't know, and she doesn't follow it. So, on the other hand, in the media, in Hollywood movies, they portray Western countries as a sexual paradise. There you can sleep with any woman you want. That's a lie. It doesn't exist. That's not how the West is. That's not how it is. I've lived it. An Iranian boy thinks that when he arrives at the airport, the first girl he sees in a miniskirt is ready for sex. That's a lie. But that's how they portray it to a young man. He thinks that all women can be there for sex. That's not how it is. He thinks that if he goes to a beach and the women are in swimsuits, then all the women are ready to have sex with him. Lies. If a boy thinks he has arrived at a paradise of 40 virgins, like a harem, he thinks the West is a harem. That's a lie. So that's how they portrayed the West, as a sexual paradise. A person doesn't know the goodness of the Islamic veil. On the other hand, in the propaganda media, you see in the movies that the guy shares a smile with the girl in just 1 minute. He's lying on the bed. This doesn't exist in the West either. That's not how it is. And that's how they start to deceive our young people. So I say the first step is education, which we have problems with. In secondary schools and universities, it's quite problematic because the topic of sexual education is a taboo in Iran. It's not talked about. Sex is practiced, but sex is not talked about. What madness, right? So, when Sheikh Qomi is going to talk about the bad things of Western sexual education, do you know what they say about Sheikh Qomi? Sheikh Qomi is not a modest religious person. He has no chastity, he has no modesty. Sheikh Qomi talks about everything in his speech. There are words like sodomy, fornication, nudity. He talks about nudity. He talks about Spencer Tunick, the New York photographer, who does collective photography. Nudity. This is not right. A good religious person doesn't talk about sex. Just imagine that madness. I mean, on one hand, young people, teenagers, are caught up in masturbation, pornography, fornication, sodomy, but talking about it is frowned upon. What madness, right? In Iran, we have that madness. That's why very few dare to invite Sheikh Qomi to discuss, talk about, and criticize Western sexual education. That's quite problematic. But every time I've been invited, I've gone for free to give a class, 2, 3, 4 hours of class. Recently, in a province, I taught a class for 700 university students on why we don't want Western sexual education. That class was 8 hours long. 700 university students all listened from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. Just 1 hour, 2 hours for a break and lunch, and then we continue. Poor things, they don't know anything. Neither from the West nor about sex. They've only seen movies, they've only seen pornography, and they think that in free sex there's everything. That's a lie. So, first is education. Once you've educated everyone, it's about spreading the message. Propaganda. It means that education alone is not enough. You have to turn values into indisputable values of society. For example, all around the world, they are teaching that not paying taxes is stealing. It's a crime not to pay taxes. It means they've done so much propaganda. Now they say so-and-so hasn't paid their taxes. And you say, oh, how bad. Do you understand? In other words, you're going to establish that law as something indisputable in people's minds. Before going to penalize, before going to enforce, in other words, in people's minds, there is what we call intrinsic motivation. A person has to achieve self-control within themselves. Then you have to conquer the media. It means your teaching surpasses all the teachings on social media. through influencers, through movies, series, comics, jokes. It means in any case you have to turn your idea into what they call the dominant dialogue. So, once you have the education and teaching, propaganda, and media, then you're going to put in place laws, provide support, or let's say laws that applaud and protect those who comply with that. Do you understand? We say non-criminal laws. No, laws that help, that serve. For example, we say if there's a girl with a hijab and a girl without one, we will prioritize hiring the girl with the hijab. Do you understand? So it means we're going to give positive points to the person who has it. So little by little, in the end, if 99% of the people are complying with that norm, then it's worth it. If a percentage or less than a percentage fails to comply, then you want to impose a criminal punishment or a fine, and the whole society applauds you, supports you. Why? Because that law has been accepted. Now in Iran, we haven't even gotten to the forefront yet. It means education. We're not there yet. How do you get to the fifth step? It means step 5. It's impossible. So the problem starts here. We still haven't reached that point of imposing fines, punishing, and not getting results. We've said it 1,000 times and no one pays attention to us. It's not that this is accepted. When I see it, I say I'm realistic. I don't care how they want to label us, how they want to name this. Because as a professional in the topic of the Islamic veil, I tell you the only way is to win the hearts of the girls, and that is done through dialogue. With love, with respect. And it doesn't happen through violation, nor with coercion. About a video I saw. First, if I were in a religious position, I would never do such a thing. I have never ever taken a photo. First, because my wife doesn't allow me. Why do you want to take a photo of the woman? Why? It's just that later they send her a fine. It's not right. If I am religious, I am not a police officer. I am religious and I want to serve the people, not punish. If I were in that position of being religious, if I could help, I would help that woman in some way. To show her that we as religious people are a representation of affection, love, and divine mercy. So, if I really wanted that woman to wear the veil, I would approach her, maybe buy a juice for her sick child. I would say to that woman, "How can I help you, Mom?" So by winning her heart with that love, with that mercy and all that, she would put on the Islamic veil herself. It has happened to me 1,000 times. That's how I've treated women, and they put on the veil. But, on the other hand, what she's shouting isn't normal either. It seems that she is also suffering from something psychological. She needs psychological attention. Because it's not normal. When you see someone taking a photo of you, you have to treat them in a normal way. You say, "Sir, this isn't right. I don't agree with all that." But that way of shouting, I see it as someone either playing to make a video to publish later. It's a theater for propaganda later against Islamic adoption. That's not so strange because they've always said it. Or she is also unwell. She needs psychological attention because a person who gets so irritated, who screams like that, someone so offensive, is not normal. For example, if I see something like that and I don't agree, I say, "Sir, please delete that photo. I don't like it." I'm going to enter into the dialogue. Human beings are different from other living beings because we have dialogue. Dialogue based on respect, based on the idea that we don't need to fight. Fighting is not for human beings. That's my opinion. May God help us to engage in dialogue. And also, to engage in dialogue with the Western media, to help them be truthful, because they will look for any excuse to fit it into the Islamophobic context that they love to insult and criticize Islam, Muslims, the Islamic veil, and everything they have. I say that what the Western propaganda media is doing is quite bad. It's part of the Islamophobia that is allowed in the West. In fact, it's allowed, although sometimes they say, no, that's not right. You'll never see YouTube deleting these videos. If this happened to a Jew, to a rabbi, they would delete it. But if that happens to a Muslim, if they call him a Muslim, YouTube leaves it up. That's another part of the media injustice from the West against Islam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.